She didn't know his parents were rich when she was raising a straight child. They gave her payment later. In this way, Antonia's love of children never wavered. She cherished witnessing their unsophisticated understanding of reality and how they giggled while playing. But because she consistently had issues with her relationships, she was never able to produce children of her own. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. If it wasn't because they couldn't understand each other and have a meaningful relationship, it was because her suitors were never interested in having a family of 3. Beyond that, at 35, Antonia had made the decision to become an assistant in an orphanage. Since she worked as a psychologist, she was responsible for taking care of incoming new arrivals to ensure their comfort and safety. Although she was silent and very serious, she was a very kind woman. She intimidated youngsters at first, but as time went on, they grew to adore her as much as a second mother. Antonia had taken in a dog, whom she had named Leon, in an attempt to be more like the kids. Similar to her, Leon was a pit bull breed that used to terrify people. However, after meeting him, they discovered he was a lovable dog who enjoyed playing. A few years after she began working as an orphanage worker, Rodrigo, a 3-year-old kid, knocked on her door. Being a shy child, he would often cry and want to be picked up by his parents. But because he was so little, he had no idea who his parents were or how to get to his house. At first, it was not her task to attend to Rodrigo because of how small he was, but he adored being behind Leon. Every morning when he and Antonia arrived at the orphanage, Leon would bark to greet everyone. After that, Rodrigo would descend quickly and prepare to play with Leon. Rodrigo was a very restless child. Despite being so shy, he always wanted to play with Leon. Eventually, the caregivers would have no option but to allow him to be in Antonia's office. Little by little, Antonia got more and more fond of Rodrigo, and the boy liked being around Antonia because of how peaceful and sweet she was. Rodrigo had been in the orphanage for about a year when Antonia began to really consider adopting him. Naturally, there were a number of legal challenges, and she questioned whether Rodrigo would approve of the outcome. Although Rodrigo performed well in kindergarten and was happy with his friends and caregivers, he still harbored sadness at not knowing where his parents were. Just when Antonia was starting to lose hope for the adoption, Rodrigo began referring to her as Mother Antonia. Antonia made the decision to make her decision legally official at that same time, starting a drawn-out process that would take a full year. Antonia got the wonderful present she had always desired for Rodrigo's 5th birthday, a son to care for and adore. Rodrigo, Antonia, and Leon dealt with day-to-day issues while living a straightforward and contented existence in this way. Rodrigo had no recollections of his biological parents by the time he was 18, but he was certain that Antonia was his adopted mother and that he had first seen her when he arrived at the orphanage. After deciding to pursue architecture, Rodrigo had an office at the airport. He was drawn to interior design and the way modern architecture and works of art were developed, giving cities a new look. Being a longtime supporter of him, Antonia had put in a lot of work to finance his early years in the profession. At one point, Rodrigo had to take a part-time job to help pay for his education and assist Antonia with her bills. Rodrigo started working as an assistant secretary for a construction company at this time. It was an ideal starting point for studying the architectural and building industries. Furthermore, he was able to meet Mr. Jeremias Alcantara, the owner of the construction firm. Jeremias was a financially well-off man who was sober and very serious. He was always impatient for tangible results and never laughed. The workers closest to him left their jobs after less than a year, and he did not inspire much sympathy within the organization. That's exactly what transpired with Rodrigo's assistant. Rodrigo's supervisor resigned one morning and never showed up, despite numerous calls from the head architect. Rodrigo assumed the role of chief secretary to the chief architect in this fashion. Thus, he started corresponding with Mr. Jeremias more often. Rodrigo picked up the new duties quickly, because he was a quick learner and had an agile mind. Although Jeremias rarely noticed him, he had to talk to the architect in order to leave messages and find out where he was. To decompress from work, Jeremias and his wife Natalia went for a stroll in a small park one afternoon. He ran into Rodrigo and Antonia at that moment, who were strolling with Leon as well. Saluting Mr. Jeremias and presenting Antonia as his mother, Rodrigo went up to him. Warm hands were exchanged between Jeremias and his wife. But Natalia could see that Rodrigo bore a striking resemblance to her husband in his youth. She was so concerned that she questioned Jeremias whether Rodrigo was a family member who was going to start working for the company. Jeremias declined and inquired as to why she thought so. In order to avoid being accused of being similar to Jeremias' brother, Natalia claimed that she had made him resemble him. Natalia was uncomfortable with this interaction since many years earlier, when returning from a pleasure trip at an airport, she and her husband had lost their little 3-year-old son. Because Natalia could not stop thinking about the meeting, she made the decision to look into Rodrigo and Antonia's backgrounds. She quickly discovered that Antonia was not actually his biological mother. After discovering the truth, she made the decision to confront her spouse about her misgivings, expressing that she believed Rodrigo might be the child she had abandoned so many years prior. Initially, Jeremias rejected his wife's views and chose not to explore the history that had brought him so much suffering. Nevertheless, he soon noticed that there was something oddly familiar about the youngster, the way he worked, and the small aspects of his personality. He felt quite uneasy about this, especially after his wife brought up the idea once more. Knowing her husband wouldn't be present, Natalia made the decision to invite Antonia to her home one day. Even though Antonia was shocked to receive the invitation, she chose to accept it without telling Rodrigo anything. After greeting her with great courtesy and offering her coffee, Natalia felt it was appropriate to inform her of the reason behind her call. She inquired about Rodrigo's origins and the reason for his name. The questions made Antonia a little uneasy, so she explained that although she had adopted Rodrigo from the orphanage where she worked, she was not his real mother. Natalia lost all composure at that point and started crying. Feeling bewildered, Antonia requested Natalia to settle down. Natalia confessed, shedding tears, that she had had a kid many years ago, but she had lost sight of him for a brief moment on the way back from a pleasure trip and had never been able to locate him. They were unable to locate her son, no matter how many police stations, orphanages, and private investigators they hired. She knew it had to be Rodrigo. Antonia and Natalia both started crying at that point, and Antonia told her that she had searched for Rodrigo's parents, but had not even been able to locate a hint. Natalia expressed her sincere gratitude to her for raising her son and expressed her desire to remain in her life, provided she was granted permission. Antonia informed her that they did not require any of the products or money that she had offered in exchange. She welcomed them into her family and told her that nothing in the world could compare to the immense love she had for her son. Natalia realized that although she had asked God for another lady to have the same love, she had prayed with deep anguish over the loss of her son. Now that they could both enjoy it, they would grow and improve. We appreciate you coming to see us. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.